4 months ago, this tool didn't exist. Today, it has 297,000 GitHub stars, 56,000 forks, and more than 1,000 contributors. Now, to put that in perspective, React took 10 years to hit those numbers. OpenClaw did it in about 4 months, and the founder left to join OpenAI right in the middle of it all.
I mean, that is just a massive global community of developers all piling onto a single project in an incredibly short space of time. So what on earth is going on here?
Okay, let's dive into that explosive story. We're talking about a tool that outpaced a giant like React, the thing that powers Facebook, in a tiny fraction of the time. And the whole drama of its founder, Peter Steinberger, leaving for OpenAI only added fuel to the fire.
So what is all the hype really about? Well, by the end of this explainer, you're going to get it. You'll understand the 6 fundamental building blocks that make any AI agent actually work, and you'll see exactly why this specific project managed to capture everyone's attention.
Right, the first thing everyone asks is, okay, so it's just another chatbot? And the answer is no, not at all. And that's the entire point. See, a chatbot talks. OpenClaw does work. And the best way to really get that difference is to walk through the 6 key concepts that you need before you can call a piece of software a true agent. So let's start with the absolute foundations, shall we? The first 2 building blocks we need to talk about are inference and memory. This is basically how an AI is able to think and to remember. First up, inference. You have to remember, a large language model is really just a giant static file, right? It's just sitting on a disk, often hundreds of gigabytes in size. To do anything with it, you need an engine, an inference service, to load that file into some powerful GPU memory and then open up an API so you can actually talk to it. But here's the key thing. OpenClaw doesn't care which engine you use. It's totally pluggable. You could use Claude today, GPT tomorrow, or a local model on your own machine the day after. Second, we've got memory. That inference service we just mentioned, it's stateless. It has total amnesia. Every single time you send it a message, it has completely forgotten every other message you've ever sent. So for an agent to feel like it knows you, something else has to do the remembering. OpenClaw uses this really clever layered system. It keeps your recent chats around for immediate context, but it also summarizes older ones and pulls out key facts about you, like, that you're based in Manchester or that you prefer really concise replies, and stores them in a database. So we have a brain and we have a memory. But the agent still needs access to knowledge beyond what it was originally trained on. And that brings us to our third building block, RAG, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. A model's knowledge is basically frozen in time, right? It ends the day its training stopped. It has no clue what happened yesterday, and it certainly doesn't know what's inside your private company files. RAG fixes this. The process is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Before the model answers your question, the agent first goes and looks up relevant information from an external source, say a folder of your invoices or your entire Notion workspace, and then it uses that fresh, new context to give you an answer. Okay, so our agent can think, it can remember, and it can do research. But how does it actually do things out in the real world? Well, that's where our next 2 bits, MCP and skills, come into play. Number 4 is MCP, the Model Context Protocol. The easiest way to think about this is that it gives the agent hands. It's an open standard that lets a language model call external tools. Without it, the model's trapped in a box. It can only spit out words. But with MCP, it can suddenly fetch the weather, send an email, or even open a pull request on GitHub. It can actually interact with the digital world around it. But, just because you can use a hammer, that doesn't mean you know how to build a house. And that brings us to number 5, skills. A skill is like a runbook or a procedure. For example, MCP gives an agent the ability to look up a customer, read their old tickets, and send a reply. But the skill is the logic that says, hey, in this specific situation, first you read the new ticket, then you look up the customer's history, then you propose a solution, and you only escalate if they're on the enterprise plan. It provides that strategic how-to. We've now covered all 5 of the core components, so let's put it all together and see what we've actually built. So here's the crucial point. When you stack an inference service, a memory system, RAG for knowledge, MCP for tools, and skills for procedure, the thing that comes out the other end is no longer just a model. It's a system that can act autonomously to complete goals without you having to hold its hand every step of the way. That is an AI agent. Okay, so that's the theory. But look, plenty of projects are trying to build agents. What is it about OpenClaw that has captured everyone's imagination? Well, it really comes down to 2 key differences. First, full local control.
OpenClaw is not some cloud service. It runs on your hardware. This means it can read your actual files, open your local browser, and run shell commands. Cloud agents just can't do that. And second, seamless entry points. It completely skips having a standalone web UI. Instead, you talk to it from inside the apps you already use every day, like WhatsApp or Telegram. It meets you right where you are. But the technology is only half the reason for its incredible rise. The other half is a brilliant founder, a frantic naming crisis, and a surprisingly charming lobster mascot. The story starts with its founder, Peter Steinberger. He's an Austrian developer who had already built and sold a company called PSPDFKit for around 100 million euros. So one day, he gets frustrated that a proper local AI agent doesn't exist yet, so he just sits down and builds the first prototype in 1 hour.
What happened next is what the community now calls the fastest triple rebrand in AI history. It started as Claudebot, but Anthropic, who make the Claude model, sent a trademark notice. So, after a 5 a.m. vote on Discord, it became Moltbot. That lasted all of 3 days before they finally settled on OpenClaw to really emphasize its open source and local-first nature.
And you can just see the whole explosive timeline here. It is absolutely wild. From a simple prototype in November to going viral in January, to Peter Steinberger dropping the bombshell that he was joining OpenAI in February, and then hitting nearly 300,000 stars by March, every beat of this story just added more fuel to the fire.
So when you put it all together, why did this specific project break through when so many others haven't? Well, it looks like it was a perfect storm of 3 key factors. 1, it just solved a real pain point. People wanted an AI that was private, that ran locally, and that could actually do things. OpenClaw was the first to properly deliver all 3. 2, the timing was perfect. The world had been hearing about agents for a year, and this was the first one people could actually download and try for themselves. And 3, the compelling founder story, that dramatic rebrand, and a really strong community culture, complete with a lobster mascot named Multi and the catchphrase, "The claw's the law," it all made people feel genuinely attached to the project.
So now you know what OpenClaw is and why people care so much. In our next explainer, we're going to go one level deeper into its architecture. We'll look at the gateway, the channels, and most importantly, the memory system, which one developer has called OpenClaw's soul. You won't want to miss it.
But for now, if you want to get OpenClaw running on your own machine without ever touching a terminal, you can. Try this SetupClaw app for £70 from setupclaw.uk/app.